What's up, everybody? It is Wednesday night, and your guys, John and Anthony, are here to talk about some Cincinnati Bengals happenings, news, sound bites, quotes, all kinds of different stuff going on. Now that there's some OTA stuff, workouts, the Bengals have reconvened and hit the field, so to speak. And of course, the contract topic is top of mind for everybody, and we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a couple of other things associated with that. I'm Anthony. He's John. John, what's going on, bud?
Phase 2, my second least favorite phase, next to phase 1, which we just passed. But we're getting closer. We're still talking about contracts, and it's burning my mind, but we're getting closer, I guess.
What's phase 1 that's your least favorite?
What was when they first reported for like voluntary OTs, like the draft hadn't even been here. I guess that was phase 1. So
kind of what that was in between free agency and the draft, right?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, including some quotes by the big stars of the team. A lot to talk about there, and not only kind of rehashing what they said, but giving our takes on that. And if you are new here, welcome. We have been a show for a little while, but we always love newcomers to the program, and we appreciate that. If you are new, please feel free to subscribe. The show button up top, if you're watching on YouTube, click that to subscribe. Click the bell to be notified when we go live, when new content is available. We're pumping out a lot of different stuff, whether it's on the YouTube channel, whether it's our own shows or 3 and Out with Jason and Kevin. They're pumping out some stuff too. So trying to give you a lot of different stuff throughout the week on our YouTube channel, on the Cincy Jungle Facebook page, and on your favorite audio streamer, iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all of the above. You can get our show, 3 and Out. You can get Bengal Jim show as well on there. And then, of course, all the cool stuff that the coach, Matt Minnick, does on the Cincy Jungle podcast channel. Leave us a review there as well. Let us know how we're doing. Hopefully you feel like we're doing okay. But we are... We've had a busy year since the last season concluded, and we're rolling on with a lot of different things here. Some special appearances coming up, a lot of different stuff. So we'll be happy to bring all of that to you. Now, as we mentioned, though, some different sound bites, some different pieces of news now that guys are back in Cincinnati and getting in front of a lot of the media members and everything, John. So where do we want to start? Do we want to start with Joe Burrow and what he said about his contract talks at this point?
You want to start with the headband, actually? Like, what any thoughts on that?
Yeah, the headband. I that's a completely different look for him. The hair looks a little different. It's weird. He shows up every offseason. He's almost got a little different physical look. Some people thought he maybe jazzed up the teeth a little bit. Wasn't that a year or two ago, right? And then, he kind of bulked up in one of the off seasons. And then, of course, it's always been a roller coaster with him in the off season because, coming back from the knee injury and then the appendix thing and all of that. So, yeah, the headband was it was Rambo-esque is what I thought.
I mean, if anyone remembers when he first got to LSU, his hair was long. Like when he left OSU and got to LSU, like that was the original Flo Burrow when he first took over for the Bayou Bengals down there. And then I guess he kind of cut it a little bit short and made it more presentable, I guess, when he went on a rampage and won the Heisman and everything. But, yeah, Flo Burrow's back, and I think we're all here for it for sure.
Yeah, there he is rocking that bad boy right there. If you're watching the video of that, that's the sort of new look there, new coif, all kinds of different stuff. So he is out there. He is out there working, and as are his guys. But, John, he was asked about the contract talks, and I can bring up exactly what he said there, but it sounds like there is at least some form of a unified front between the team and his contract wishes, demands, whatever you want to call it. And it sounds like, they're somewhat on the same page.
Yeah, so I think a lot of people have made note of the fact that he said that he's involved, which I felt like was kind of assumed. Like when it's a deal of this magnitude, either you get players who say, yeah, I'll just let my agent kind of handle that thing. But I feel like whenever he's talked about this, which I guess has been a very limited number of times, he's made he's alluded to the fact that I'm involved in the process. Obviously he is. He's the most important Bengals player in history. He's the most popular Bengals player in history. He's the most popular Cincinnatian in history, that's aside from Fiona the hippo. So obviously he's going to have input on how this whole thing kind of goes down. So that was notable, I guess, but it wasn't too surprising to me. We've also kind of made the, not correlation, but we've used TJ Watt as an example here of like a deal that's so against the grain of what the franchise has normally done, and then the player kind of doesn't step in but just says, hey, you know what, this deal is good enough, it gets me what I want, let's not overanalyze this, let's just get it done, which is what TJ Watt did with the Steelers when they guaranteed his salaries, and it was like the first contract of that kind under that franchise. And we kind of said that like Burrow might take a similar approach where, so long as like it fits in his parameters and it's pretty much near like both sides what they want, just get it done. Just don't try to get the best possible deal. And that may or may not happen, but the main thing that people have pointed to was, quote unquote, a focal point of the negotiations is the fact that his teammates, aka T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, are also due paydays soon, and that's part of the dialogue. Now, Anthony, there's a big difference, I think, in what the perception of that means and what it actually means. And I think people for months now have been almost pressuring Burrow to just take a smaller deal than what Jalen Hurts making, what Lamar Jackson is making, for the sake of just keeping more salary cap flexibility for the team, to re-sign Higgins, to re-sign Chase. And if that's what Burrow wants, and ultimately that's what he's going to get, but I don't think that's what it means. And if no quarterback in the history of NFL free agency, aside from Tom Brady, has taken less than what he's actually owed and what he's earned as being the next guy up to get paid, I just don't think that's in the cards for Burrow. There's no reason why it would need to be. I think this has everything to do with structuring the deal so the Bengals have cap room every single year based off of certain circumstances, based off of either options that can come into play or different type of clauses that can hit based off how much cap space is already there or how much cap space the Bengals have left in a given year. There are different things that you can put into this deal that can allow the Bengals to have the flexibility to pay these other contracts that they need to pay, that if they want to keep surrounding Burrow with this level of talent. It has nothing to do, in my opinion, with being anything less, but I think these comments have only accelerated that narrative.
Okay, so we'll talk about that further in just a second, because there's a soundbite that hit that's gotten a lot of traction today and this week from a nationally syndicated show, and we'll talk about that in just a second. Here are the quotes from Joe Burrow. I pinned in the live chat here for the Facebook and the YouTube watchers there on the Cincy Jungle article that shows this quote. I'm involved. That's in the works, Burrow said, and that's something you referenced, John. Quote, not something I like to play out in the media. That's the way they, meaning the Bengals, like to do business. That's the way I like to do business. Continuing on that, another quote from him, and you can find this via NFL.com and Ian Rappaport. But, quote, I'm pretty clear on what I want in the contract and what I think is best for myself and the team. So we're on the road to making that happen. There's a lot to in just a few short sentences on everything there. There's a lot to take away. There's a lot to dissect. There's a lot to I don't know, whatever you call it, overanalyze, that sort of thing. I'll say this. Number one, the big overarching takeaway, if there was any doubt that the Bengals weren't going to step up to the plate in the regard of signing Joe Burrow and potentially signing, his very important teammates to long-term deals, they are working towards that end goal. And it sounds like, while it's slow moving, while they're working things together, and obviously we all would love to hear the thing announced now. It sounds like they're doing what needs to be done. They're working things out, and it sounds like they're somewhat on the same page, right? And Burrow has made clear some of the things that he wants in that contract, or some of the things he is looking for. Now, to your point, should we play the clip now, John?
Sure.
Okay. So I've got this clip. It's from Kay Adams here, or Up and Adams, I think. And well, You kind of talked about this a little bit, John, and that was the fact that now there's this almost, I don't know what you would want to call it, almost like an expectation
Yeah.
that from a fan's point of view, that he should take a pay cut or a team friendly deal to be able to sign this thing. And now, so on this show here, it was Rob Gronkowski joining Kay Adams. Kay Adams, obviously one of the Bengals fan favorites, based on her her affinity for the team when they went on the run in 2021. Going to the jungle. I think she was a ruler of the jungle one of those games and whatnot. So here's the clip. We're going to play it. And this is Rob Gronkowski talking to Kay Adams about Burrow's contract, some of the things he experienced with Brady and what Brady did with the Patriots while Gronk and he were together. So hopefully you guys can hear this coming up here. Let me start it over because I got to share the actual screen. That would probably help so people could see what we're talking about. This is why I shouldn't produce and do the mic stuff. But here it is again. We're going to cue it up again. Rob Gronkowski on Up and Adams, Kay Adams, and she talking about Burrow Brady contracts. Let's start it over.
Gronk's the player, but Gronk's the guy who's left the league now, understands money, understands how the business works. Would you advise him to sort of do what Brady did for so many years, of course, and take his teammates into consideration when negotiating his contract?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I believe that will, set him up to be in the Super Bowl contention every single year. And he reminded me of Brady when he was coming out of college at LSU, just the way that he sits back in the pocket and just reads the offense and just delivers it flawlessly to wherever he needs to deliver the football. But also with the contract now, he's already thinking, he wants good players around him. He wants good teammates around him. And that's a great thing. I mean, what's the difference? If you're a quarterback, you're in this day and era and you're in this market and you have a good teammates around you, you're building your legacy. You're going to be in Super Bowl contention, possibly win a Super Bowl, on your resume soon. And then you take a quarterback friendly deal. I mean, what's the difference between 47, 48 million or 53, 54 million when the next highest guy on your team's only getting paid in the 20s? You're already that much. There's already that big of a difference between your pay and the next guy pay on your team. So who cares? I mean, if you want a team around you, take friggin' couple $1 million less, which is, I don't know, nothing in the grand scheme for a quarterback. So I'm waiting for a quarterback to do that, kind of go down the Brady route. Not as much as the Brady route. I mean, he was taking like half. He was taking 50% discounts, which we don't even get at the pro shop in New England. But Tom was taking. He only got 30% discount at the pro shop there.
All right, we'll stop at the pro shop discount part. But I mean, you get the gist there. Obviously referencing Brady, and it was one of those things that made a lot of headlines later in Brady's career, where he was taking a lesser contract than obviously what a lot of people felt he was owed, and so that was for the team. I'm doing it for the team and loading up the roster with that sort of thing. So I see you rolling your eyes, John. I know you've got a particular stance on this. I think there are arguments that I could kind of see a little bit either way, but I do understand the fact that Burrow does not need to give a hometown discount, a team discount, anything to be able to keep his friends and good players on the team. I mean, I think there are ways that you've seen teams be able to keep stars upon stars before and still pay top dollar for them. And I don't think the Bengals should be or will be the exception to that rule.
Gronk's going to have to wait a long time for someone else, for another quarterback to do what Tom Brady did. And he's speaking exactly like a guy who never had the opportunity to reset the quarterback market. The difference between 47 million and 53 million, like he said, is exactly 6 million. And for someone who's in position to make $6 million more dollars than the alternative, 100% of people with working brains would take that deal, because everyone wants to get paid more. If you have the opportunity to get paid more, if we had the opportunity to make more money on the show and nothing else changes, we would absolutely do it. Like there's no fabrication around that, right? If you make $100,000 at your job and you're offered a $25,000 raise for doing absolutely nothing else, You take it. You don't worry about the benefit of the company. Dude, who cares about the salary cap in that case? You do what's best for you, right? But no, quarterbacks, or specifically Joe Burrow in this case, he's the only one who's propped up as, oh, well, he better do what's best for the team. Why is no one else getting this treatment? We never heard this once with Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, any other quarterback. Like Justin Herbert, he's up for an extension too, along with Burrow. We've heard nothing about should Herbert take a hometown discount and so he can keep the Chargers competitive or make the Chargers better. It's only Burrow for some reason. And I don't think it's for some random reason. I think it's for the still perception that the Bengals aren't able to pay what Burrow wants. And I don't think that's true. I don't think the Bengals have ever shown the incapability or inability to pay a quarterback what he's owed. They did it with Carson Palmer. They did it with Andy Dalton. There's no reason why they wouldn't be able to do it with Joe Burrow. There's no tangible proof that they can't pay Joe Burrow essentially one step above what Lamar Jackson got with the Ravens. And there's no reason why that specific deal can't still help the team be competitive and help them pay Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. It's nonsensical. Rob is just completely out of his depth here.
I completely out of his depth. Yeah, I mean, I understand his point of view from strictly the standpoint of he experienced that with Brady and he played with Brady for so long and all of that. So I can understand why he would have this perception of that situation. But like you said, this entire narrative or this entire storyline that the Bengals won't be able to keep all these guys, the Bengals won't step up to the plate and pay Burrow what he's owed and pay the other guys what he's owed, and this team's going to fall apart because they won't be able to keep their stars. The Bengals have used these last couple of seasons and the successes of them and the way they have embraced their fan base, embraced their players, current and former, embraced a lot of different things that they never did before as an organization, and really kind of have taken a number of new steps to becoming how modern franchises operate. People are still hanging on to notions about this team, and some of them aren't even factual, by the way, but they're hanging on to notions of this team from way long ago. And they're talking about contract impasses with Mike Brown and other players and different things like that. But I mean, you referenced it with Andy Dalton and Carson Palmer. When the time comes for premium, and there are a handful of premium positions that this team values, it's offensive tackle, it's quarterback, and it's wide receiver. When they have star players at those positions, they pay them incredibly well. And that is through not only current times, but in some of the darker times, in some of the rebuilding years and all of that. I mean, you could look at, Levi Jones, Willie Anderson were paid very well because they were very good tackles during their time. Carson Palmer, I believe at one point was the highest paid or one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. When his rookie deal got torn up, they paid him there. Chad Johnson received a number of contracts that made him one of the highest paid receivers in the league. And so this notion that the Bengals don't step up and pay these positions, particularly for star players, by the way, go back and look at that roster where the Bengals were paying. They had to pay TJ Hushmanzada a good contract. Granted, he left towards the end, but he got one contract with the Bengals after his rookie one. They paid Carson Palmer handsomely, and they paid Chad Johnson handsomely. And if I remember correctly, I think Rudy Johnson got a nice contract in there as well. So they've paid core players. They've been able to juggle all of this and remain competitive. I don't know why, to your point, I don't know why there's this narrative that it's this impossibility for the Bengals to be able to do this with their current stars. Granted, the price tag is going to be huge, but they are already making steps, be it renaming the practice bubble in the stadium and everything. They are already making steps to be like, we're going to shell out the money for these guys.
And I just want to say this too, because I don't think that Joe Burrow I know for a fact that he doesn't only care about money. I'm not trying to put words into his mouth here, but it's not just about the actual accruing that much cash. It's about the fact that there's just a precedent that's been set, and that's when it's your time to get paid, you always get paid more than the next guy. This is just a reality when it comes to just free agency in general. So yes, there is a reality where Burrow takes less, and then the team, I guess has more flexibility to pay other players and whatnot, and that's fine. But it's not about, oh, I'm saying that Burrow wants more money than anyone else just because he just wants the money. It's just that's just equal fair treatment based off of just what's come before him, right? There's no reason why he shouldn't want the same thing that dozens and dozens of other quarterbacks before him have done, and he has to just be exactly like Tom Brady. Just because why? Because he plays like him? Because he's always been compared to him? It's complete. It's not just about the actual money. It's about what it means, right? It's just about what it just is. It's a precedent. It's a precedent almost to a certain point. So yeah, like it's not. I'm so sick of just people comparing quarterbacks to just regular people. Oh, these quarterbacks they're making so much more money than this regular folks. It doesn't matter if they take $5 million less. You guys aren't in position to make $15 million a year. You can't possibly fathom what that proposition would look like if you guys had the chance to take $48 million per year and $54 million per year. Every single freaking one of you is taking $54 million a year. I don't care what you say about the difference between $6 million at that point. If you don't have the chance to do it, don't say you would take less for the sake of legacy and Super Bowl rings. And another thing, the reason why they take the bigger deal is because you don't get to that level without just being an uberly confident person. You don't think Joe Burrow thinks he's capable of winning a Super Bowl despite being the highest paid player in the NFL history? That's absurd. Of course he does. He's not worried about oh, I'm making so much money, the team's not gonna be like. Of course, the structure of the deal is where the flexibility comes from. It's not the average annual value. That is just a given. He's going to sign the biggest deal in NFL history. End of story.
Well, and here's the other thing with it too. They're talking about, oh, well, the sacrifices the Bengals will have to make if they sign Joe Burrow to this big contract is, well, they may not be able to keep Jamar and T. Well, no, that's not necessarily the case. The sacrifices that may need to be made, we may have seen them already in the form of not retaining Jesse Bates, not retaining Von Bell on a more expensive contract, not retaining Hayden Hurst on a multi-year deal. Tough to see some of those guys go, but I think that's part of the process as well if you want to keep all of these guys. And I think people are kind of, shoving that aside a little bit, saying, they have made some sacrifices already to get these deals in place, potentially in the form of losing a star safety, losing another very good safety, and other players in free agency, which the attrition in free agency hit harder this year than it did in years past because, again, these deals weren't on the front burner here because everybody was so new into their rookie contracts, right? So now I think they're kind of saying these are kind of some of the sacrifices that are coming with this if we want to keep this core three on offense together.
Long story short, the salary cap is very much real. Like the idea that it's just this mythical thing that teams can get around. No, teams manipulated more than you think, and that's what it's going to take for the Bengals to make this work. There is a very real reality where the Bengals agree to a deal with Joe Burrow that allows them salary cap flexibility to pay Jamar Chase, to pay T. Higgins, while also ensuring that Joe Burrow gets every penny that he deserves and then some. That reality exists and has nothing to do with taking a pay cut. End of story.
I want to ask you this, hypothetical. If something takes place in the form of what Gronk is referencing, would you be surprised if Burrow took a lesser deal? Would you be like, no, that's just who he is. He wants to make sure that everything's, these guys are in here. I mean, would it surprise? I mean, like you said, you're talking about if let's just say a $50 million a year deal, right? If you're leaving $6-7 million a year on the table to get more to the mid 40s, that's what 12% of a total. That's a big amount of money that you're saying. Would it actually surprise you based on some of the things that he did say, talking about having quality players on the roster, working with the team and making his intentions known? Would it surprise you if he did go with a team-friendly deal based on what common sense otherwise would tell you?
So the team-friendly deal is taking less than Jalen Hurts and Lamar Jackson is what you're saying, like average per year, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guess, yeah.
Yeah, it's more likely that Joe Burrow just doesn't re-sign with the Bengals than if he takes less than Lamar Jackson. I'm just saying, like, his agent's not doing his job if that's what he agrees to. There is a way to make the team-friendly aspect work without sacrificing total money per year, total cash per year.
Average annual value. Yeah.
The cash is what's important here, and he will get all of that. It's up to the onus is on the Bengals to make sure they're not in salary cap hell. It's not up to the quarterback who's earned this contract. And you know what? Like a couple years ago when we did a great charity fund for Anthony Munoz, Ken Riley, and Ken Anderson, I drank hot sauce on the show. If Joe Burrow if he does take less than Lamar Jackson's average annual value, I will chug a hot sauce of someone's choice.
What was the one you chugged? I forget. That was a gnarly one.
It was very
correctly.
Painful. I don't know what it was, but it was very painful.
Oh man, I wish I had that queued up. We should rehash that. But all right. Well, Joe Burrow has spoken about his contract. It sounds like things are at least going in a good direction there, and he's working with the team. I don't think this is, as it has not been, an overnight thing. It's going to be a slow process, and likely when one domino falls, whether it's T. Higgins's contract or another, maybe even another player on the roster, but when one of those dominoes falls, inevitably you would think that the next one would be coming pretty soon after that. So they're going to structure this deal. I think it's going to be Joe's first, because they want to see everything, how that's structured, get that framework worked out. And then we can say, okay, this is kind of the wiggle room we have. This is the flexibility we do and don't have to work with a Higgins contract immediately, and then, Chase further down the road. So, we're playing a little bit of a waiting game, but he talked about it. Now, let's talk a little bit about some stuff from Jamar and T, because they spoke about a lot of things. One of the things, John, that was kind of cool is they had some good praise for Irv Smith. They like what they're seeing from him there. That was one of the bright spots there. But talk us through a little bit of some of the quotes from Jamar and T that you found the most interesting this week.
Yeah, so I think they were also asked about like Bro and things of that nature, and I think Jamar made some comments about like what Joe wants and everything. What I found interesting though was I think it was Jamar who was talking about both of them, and obviously Chase missed a handful of games last year due to a hip injury, and he said that an emphasis for him this year is to make sure that he and T are on the field more often and not being subbed off on as much as they were last year. Which I mean, I don't think it was a huge necessarily issue with last year, but I think T is entering year 4, Chase is entering year 3. Like they're in their physical primes at this point, and the depth of receiver is as strong as it's ever been since they've both been teamed with the Bengals. So the idea of this offseason being more of an emphasis on making sure the conditioning's good and they're just out there for as much as possible, I think it bodes well for the offense. And I think T was also, I think he was asked about his contract and the rumors about that potentially being done. And we can talk more about that. But I thought it was interesting that's one of his goals, that in terms of
it's good
overall. Yeah, right. So that was interesting.
I mean, you look at I go back to 21. I remember he, I think something bothered him in that opener. He left in that game. I think it lingered into a game against the Steelers as well. He had, I think, a concussion last year that maybe caused him a game or two. But yeah, I mean, whether they're subbed out, whether it's injury stuff, and then, kudos to the Bengals too. I think if I remember correctly, when Jamar missed those 4 games, I think they went 3-1. So in that stretch, so. I mean, you're missing arguably, one of your best players here, and you're able to go survive a stretch without him and go 3-1. So that's a testament to the quarterback, the depth of the team, and the coaching staff, everybody. So, that's got to be the goal. And now that the Bengals have kind of, seemingly shored up some wide receiver depth behind them, which is good. And granted, Trenton Irwin had four touchdown catches last year, and he provided some nice sparks. But with the 2 draft picks the Bengals made this year, shoring up some things in the wide receiver department, you still got Tyler Boyd in there, obviously. But having the Hydra or whatever, every weapon available out there is obviously optimum, and it just makes this team so incredibly scary when they've got everybody out there, everybody's healthy. And as a defensive coordinator going up against this group, you gotta not be able to sleep very well that entire week, because you basically gotta pick your poison, because you're not going to be able to contain absolutely everybody. Really, the only way that you're able to do that is having an insane pass rush, to just continually hit and sack Burrow. That's really the best hope for an opposing defense at this point.
Yeah, and part of making sure that happens is, I mean, you look at T. Higgins, we can talk about his agent and how, T. Bates kind of did the whole holdout thing last year, and it's not quite the same situation considering Higgins has, another year left on his deal, but like there's precedent for Higgins to kind of make a statement to the Bengals and say, hey, I'm in a contract year, we're in these negotiations, it's in my best interest to make sure that, I'm taking care of my body correctly and I'm not putting out in danger. I'm doing my own thing, right? And I think like there are still some players on the Bengals right now who are on their own workout schedule, so they're not quite yet with the team yet. But Higgins is with the Bengals right now. He's practicing with the team. He's living in Cincinnati, and his message was, I want to put my work in. I want to be with the guys, and that's the most important thing. So I don't think anyone would blame him if he wasn't with the team right now because of the negotiations going on and the fact that he deserves the contract that he's likely to get. But I think he made a statement by, willingly talking about it and just being open about it and saying, my work is what's most important to me, and we have obviously no reason not to respect that. So kudos to him for, taking the time to say all those things.
Let's bring up the quotes that he shared about the contract extension potentially coming his way. This is on Cincy Jungle. I will pin the story here in the live chat, and I'll try and pin that Irv Smith story as well. Addresses the contract extension rumors. Obviously, our guy Zim, I know he's got a good pulse on things. He kind of said, they're working really hard, and seemingly kind of hinted at the fact that it was pretty close, but still, I think it's credible what he threw out there. But Paul Daner says T. Higgins on rumors his deal was done. Quote, yeah, I had a lot of people texting me, man, but I didn't text them back. I knew there was nothing there. My mom texted me, was like, you got a deal done, son? And I was like, Mom, if I had a deal done, you'd be the first to know. So he kind of said that. I do think that, again, there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes. I think he's kind of being tongue-in-cheek and funny there. So, while it's not done, it doesn't really mean that it hasn't been worked on for a while. It doesn't mean that some of it hasn't been done. And I know that this is a priority. And again, my gut feeling is that the Burrow deal just comes first for a variety of reasons, but it happens first. Then it probably, does the trickle down effect of, okay, this is what we've got to work with based on the big quarterback contract. Now let's work with T's contract and get him in there how we can.
I mean, it's simple, but you're absolutely right. Like that's the most important aspect when it comes to T, that Burrow's deal gets done. And it's not that they're only focused on Burrow right now. Like they can do these things simultaneously. They've been in talks with T for a while now, and Zim is obviously a friend of the show. I don't agree with everything that he says, but I felt like I understood what he was trying to get across with that initial tweet more than like some of the people who were outraged about it. And like my interpretation of it, I don't know if you took this the same way, was that since they're dealing with the Burrow negotiations right now, like they don't know for sure how that's going to end up, but they have an idea. They have like certain parameters of, where like the money kind of falls with that. And they've had talks with T's agent, David Mulligetta, and based off of the wording of Five's deal is done, which means T. Higgins' deal is done, I never took that as he's about ready to sign it and it's like finalized and it's ready to go, because I never thought that T was going to sign before Burrow. What I took it was there's an agreement in principle of how much T's contract is going to be, and provided that Burrow's deal fits into the parameters that they're expecting, then they will also be able to fit that agreed upon deal with T. So Burrow's deal comes first, and then right after that, it's like, hey, are we still good with this deal with T? Like the money's all here. Like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. That's what I interpreted from it. Yeah, like not just like the deal's imminent, because as soon as that tweet launched, right, Zim tweeted that out, and then there were reporters who were trying to like figure out if this was legit. And of course, they were going to hear like, no deal's imminent, like he's not about to sign. Then people were like, oh, Zim lied and everything, and he was making stuff up. No, like Zim, like he doesn't like he doesn't just cap on the internet. Like he has connections, and he has pretty tight
100%.
connections with
Yeah.
with T. Higgins' family. So it wasn't the sense of like I think he didn't necessarily word it the right way. Maybe I could have advised him to do something differently with that, but the interpretation seemed pretty clear to me as soon as there wasn't a deal that was signed, you know?
Yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, maybe a handshake agreement or a framework has been kind of doled out. The team has been working on this stuff for both of these players for a while. So, I mean, I think they've got a decent idea as to what their expectations are. They know the market values of these guys. So, I mean, again, it's not, they're not dummies. I mean, they understand what this is. And I think, I think you worded that very, very well, where it's like, okay, we've got this framework. We've got kind of some figured out here, but we got to finalize the quarterback deal. We got to make sure that this fits into what we have kind of set up to make both these deals work and be able to be palatable for the team. So, yeah, again, I think, like you said, how you interpreted that, I probably interpreted it a very similar way. I wasn't expecting a next day announcement or anything like that. I think that a lot of it has been maybe like, okay, yeah, looks good right now. We'll check it out, when the time is more appropriate, I guess, to look at it and then put pen to paper.
And I don't think it can be completely discounted that if they weren't on as good of terms as we assume that they are, like maybe there is a reality where T is not present right now. Maybe if they're nowhere near
right
where that is, maybe he would be more willing to make a statement. So
right.
I don't want to read into that too much. Like I feel like T also just prioritizes just getting the work done and everything. So that's just kind of, I mean, there's not a lot to go on, right? This is the first time the Burrows spoke in a while. It's the first time that T and Jamar spoke for a while. So we're trying to make work with what they got, but correctly, like they're doing this the right way. They're not putting this out in the media. Like they have an agreement with the team that this kind of stays between inside these walls, and it's just up to us yo-hos to kind of interpret it as best we can.
Well, shameless self-promotion. Go check out the interview we did late last year with T. Higgins. Had a little sit down while John sat down with him physically right next to him. I was from afar,
Pretty
but
cool.
we had pretty good chat with him, and obviously $1 million smile, great guy, great personality, and has been an incredible asset on the field for the team as well. So obviously the Bengals recognize that, and they are working towards a contract for him. We'll be here just a little while longer. We're keeping it a little bit more brief than we usually do, just because aside from the contract stuff, some of the stuff is a little light at this point in the NFL calendar, but we're still going to bring you a lot of different shows and pieces of content and everything. But the good news, as I mentioned a little bit ago, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase are liking their new tight end, Irv Smith Jr. And I think, like we've talked about on this show, there is a pretty, again, if the injury bug doesn't strike and the Bengals, work this right, I know he's going to be down the pecking order in terms of, receiver priority or pass catcher priority because of all the talent the team has amassed. But I think there's a pretty high ceiling for this guy this year to parlay it potentially. It's about staying healthy, but potentially parlay it into, a nice contract for himself, be it with the Bengals or another team next year.
The ceiling's always been high with Irv, and I think the Bengals recognized that when they graded him as like a second-round pick in the 2019 draft. It's obviously always about the durability, but they haven't had an athlete like this at tight end. Like we applauded Hayden Hurst's speed, but it was never really on display. Irv Smith is a fast dude, and he's still only 24, 25 years old, and he's competent as a receiver when he's on the field. So, yeah, the ceiling is high, and obviously they were able to get him for a discount because of his durability concerns. But, like he said all the right things, and I think he's putting in the work. So, like, yeah, it'll be interesting to see, when Cam comes out, like, are they going to use him any different than they use Hayden Hurst? Is it more or less, is it not just replacing the same type of role with another, or is this role going to evolve where he is more of a vertical weapon because he has that speed, right? And I think that would help the offense out a lot. But at the same time, can you do the little things that Hayden Hurst was able to do so well when he was on the field? So a lot of it is just him staying on the field, but it does seem like he's acclimating pretty well.
Yeah, the quote is he's Burrow of Irv Smith Jr. Quote, he's upstairs all day, every day, learning the offense. He looks smooth, big, strong, and athletic. And you see the picture there. They're doing a little fist bump, it looks like. So that's what Burrow had to say with him. And, of course, Chase and Smith actually have some history from yesteryear in high school. Me and Irv used to work out in high school together, same trainer. He said to Mike Petralia. We go way back. It was pretty cool seeing Irv again, seeing him out on the field. It feels good to see another person from New Orleans. I know exactly what he's capable of. We played against each other in high school and in college, so we've been following each other the whole journey, but I feel like he is good with the ball in his hands and can make a play. He has yards after the catch. He can definitely make a guy miss. He's not the average speed tight end. He's a smart player too, and all that plays a part in his game. So he is pretty revved up, and not just because of what he brings on the field. It sounds like he's pretty revved up because he finally gets to play with him instead of against him. So I think that's a pretty cool aspect of it.
Yeah, I think they would have met once in college during that 2018 season, but I don't think Chase played in that game. And I think Alabama blew out Burrow's LSU team. So that was, I guess, their one meeting on the field beforehand. And I guess they must have played against each other in 2021 in that season opener that you talked about. So, yeah, another New Orleans kid on the Bengals.
Yeah. Bring them all over. They're all really good. So bring them all over. What else did we not touch on with this here? Some of the quotes and sight sounds from the OTAs. Did I miss anything we want to discuss?
Not to my knowledge, no. Again, like, this is just a lot of guys who's coming back. I guess the guys who aren't here yet, that's Jonah Williams. I think he's still recovering from his dislocated knee. Terrell Basham was another notable absentee at OTAs. I think that was also due to an injury, but it seems like 98% player participation at OTAs right now, so pretty in line. Yeah.
Bit about what it's been under Zach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'll be really interested to see if and when Jonah comes back to report, whether it's for training camp, OTAs, or what have you, because he's going to have a lot of microphones in his face, I would assume. And, really interested to see what his answers are. My guess, if he comes back and is a Cincinnati Bengal, my guess is he'll be pretty classy about it and just say, I'm going to work and do my thing. But it'll be an interesting time when he comes back and reports to camp for sure.
Bro, like, we already overanalyze offensive and defensive lineman reps in training camp enough. Every single rep of him at right tackle is going to be under a microscope, and I'm not looking forward to it.
Yeah. But, hey, I mean, the hope is obviously that he comes back and, plays his ass off and plays well at right tackle for him. And, if it's not him, maybe it's Collins, and he comes back sooner than expected and plays well too. So, I mean, we've said this before, they've got options there, but that's going to be definitely of interest when he comes back. There's going to be a lot of quotes. And like you said, paralysis by overanalysis on reps at camp and everything. So we'll see here. Bo asked Browns the first game. What do you all think? We did a schedule recap show last week. I don't know. I mean, right now, how are you feeling about that one as we sit here in May, John, before pre-Memorial Day, going on the road to face Cleveland? I do not like week ones. We said that the other day. Week ones are just weird. You never seem to get the best. And even sometimes if you are a 1-0 team, you're a 1-0 team that ends up going 5-12 or something sometimes based on, some fool's gold that you see. So I don't know.
Yeah, let me just get out the injury report for that game. It doesn't exist. I don't know, man.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
Like, week one is, like you said, it's such a wild card, and it's such not indicative of how the rest of the season's gonna go. So I don't know if just the wackiness and randomness of it just kind of tilts the whole dynamic between these two teams, maybe in the Bengals' favor. I feel like it's just it's so up in the air. Like, obviously, the Bengals are a better team than the Browns, but it hasn't mattered in recent years aside from December of last year. So I think week one against them almost plays into their favor. If we expect the Bengals to just start slow out of the gate, might as well get a team that they can't play well in regular circumstances out there. I don't know.
Yeah, the Browns have just been kryptonite, man. It's a hard one, but we'll see. We'll see. I think the Browns faithful and the team are pretty psyched about the the Jim Schwartz hire and what he potentially will bring to the defense there. So remains to be seen exactly how big of an impact that will be on the field. But from what we've seen and heard, they like that hire. So we'll see. All right. Well, we are going to get out of here. Let's drop the mic and check out. What do you got for us, Sean?
Well, I don't want to potentially steal yours again. So do you want to go first?
Sure. I'm gonna. He just made a comment right here. My guy Chris, who co-hosts and he goes by Pork Chop as well. Hell of a nice guy, and he has some fun on the Bengals and Brew show as well as with Strawberry Ice. Kind of does some co-hosting stuff. They have a lot of fun over there. We had a lot of fun doing some shows with the draft with them, and man, they put in the hours over there for sure. But he is the architect. He had this cool old school font, just a orange hat, black writing. It just says Houday, very simple exclamation points. And I saw it and I'm like, man, that is a cool hat. It's so basic and so neat. You know me, and I love these trucker hats. So he was like, dude, I'll make you one. And he said he'd send me one, and I was like, oh, cool, thanks, man. Nope, don't need to do it. And lo and behold, on Mother's Day, I got a gift from Chris is when it showed up. So thank you, Chris. Go check out Bengals and Brews, and of course Strawberry Ice, among all of the other great Bengals shows, Bengals podcasts that are out there. Of course, after you check out John and I and the Orange Black Insider, but go check out all of them. Thank you, Chris, again. Appreciate it, my man.
You must really like that hat. It's not even a flat bill, and you're wearing it.
I know. It's hey, yeah.
But yeah, just shout out to Chris. And I just remembered I should plug something too. I was on recently with Our Lads, their YouTube channel, to talk about the Bengals draft, and we want to set up a giveaway actually for 5 of our listeners, subscribers, whatever the case may be. If you guys would like a draft recap PDF from Our Lads to go completely in depth about the entire draft, the results, and obviously like reports and profiles of all 8 Bengals draft picks and maybe some of their UDFAs, definitely hit us up. Like give us your email addresses, and we will send you guys that when it releases sometime in June. So if you want a PDF copy from Our Lads and their draft recap guide, definitely hit us up, and we'll try to get in contact with you when that releases in June. And my other mic drop, Anthony, is a question. Would you rather see a boxing match between Le'Veon Bell and Vontaze Burfict, or a golfing match between the two?
Well, I would worry about saying something that would offend 55, but he's blocked me on Twitter. I don't really know why. But, I mean, obviously, for me, I mean, you watch a boxing match, it's more of an exciting sport to watch. I would maybe go with that also, just because that is when some real hatred between those teams was spawning. So that would be, but I also love Burfict's response to it, saying, hey man, why do we have to fight? Let's go play golf and do it for charity. Respect the hell out of that from 55 for sure. So maybe unblock me, and I can tell you, Vontaze, that I respect you for your stance on this. I mean, I guess the idiot meathead in me says boxing match, but I hope it ends up being a golf match because of what Burfict proposed.
I just can't believe that 8 years have passed, and we're talking about
crazy. Like,
no, it's like out of the 10,000 hits between these two teams, that like ranks like 9,999th in terms of like malicious intent. It was very unfortunate what happened to Le'Veon Bell, but I mean, you could just pull up dozens of other incidences that Burfict has done that are so much more worse, but somehow he's still catching flack for that because of just the injury. It's bizarre to me. I don't know.
It is. You going back to your R Lads thing? Is that Dan Shonka?
Yeah, he runs the site, but I believe his name's Greg, who actually does like the Bengals part of the draft guide. I'll have to get his full name actually.
Yeah, and so how do you want the listeners to, if they want to get some free draft guide?
Email us. Email us that you're interested.
Yep, cool, awesome. Thanks, man. Thanks for all you do, my friend. Thank you for everybody tuning in live. Thank you for those tuning in after the fact. Again, get it on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell. Give a thumbs up on the Cincy Jungle Facebook page to get our videos and all of the podcasts that stream on there, as well as subscribe to the Cincy Jungle podcast channel through your favorite audio streamer. All of the major ones were there. Leave us a review. We appreciate it. We're going to be getting you all kinds of different stuff coming up through the summer. Coverage, interviews, special guests, all kinds of stuff. We'll be bringing you more fun. We appreciate it. John, take care, my man. We'll be talking soon.
Talk to you guys soon.